Oh, okay.
Great.
Check it out. Yeah, you're on.
Hi, guys. So David and I are, my name is Laurel Stark, and I'm a creative director, but I've also been working with the 3% for about 4 years now. And this is David Jackson. He's a producer with the One Club for Creativity. And he and I have been working for about the past 3 years on an initiative called Next Creative Leaders. And our organizations have basically partnered to shine a light on the up-and-coming creative leaders in our industry and find out who they are, find out what their stories are, and then give them a platform to tell all of you guys what they know, which is a lot. So we're super excited today to have 4 of the 10 here with us today. We have Sakshi Chaudhary from Ogilvy, Mumbai.
Hi.
All the way, she flew all the way from India. We have Kate Bainham from Goodby Silverstein in San Francisco. We have Jess Toy from JWT in New York. And we have Lili Sobieski. Sorry.
Alexandra.
It was an inside joke. We have Alexandra Sobieski.
That's correct.
From Spotify here today.
Yes.
And since, the biggest thing that these women bring to the table is their point of view and their awesome creative work, we asked them to bring a piece of the work that they submitted to win with us today. And we're going to share that work with you and give them a chance to talk about that. And hopefully you guys will take some things away from that and be able to put that in your pocket and use that to do some great work of your own. And every year, there's a lot of great stories that come out of Next Creative Leaders. And as a storyteller myself, I'm always really excited to see what those are going to be. This year, 6 of our 10 winners actually hailed from countries outside the USA, which is awesome, very global perspective. And also, 9 of the 10 winners entered work that would be considered social good. So I think the interesting thing here is that there's a big place for women in creativity, not just because of the individual and special way that we view the work and the way and what we bring to the table just based on our unique experiences, but there's a really important place for global, diverse perspectives in general in creative, not just in doing great creative work, but in doing good in the world. And I think that this work that they're going to show you today will definitely bring that to light.
We're going to start today with Alexandra here, who's an art director at Spotify. If we could go ahead and play video 1, please.
Communities like this have had to endure tragedies like this too many times.
That's what's happened in this country. It's become something that we expect.
According to a report by Fast Company, the NYAGV has aimed its latest campaign at having Apple remove the gun emoji.
Taking the bullets out of its gun. That's the company's old pistol emoji on the left and the new one on the right.
A lot of iMessages are going to look notably less
Many gun control
threatening
advocates consider the switch to be an innovative and symbolic way for the tech giant to announce its position on the issue.
Do-gooders called New Yorkers Against Gun Violence have successfully, after a great deal of effort, lobbied Apple.
The gun violence epidemic has only grown worse. New Yorkers Against Gun Violence decided this is time to do something.
So Alexandra,
So serious.
it is pretty serious. I mean, unfortunately, this work feels like it could have been made yesterday. What sparked it and the desire to bring it to life?
Yeah, so always a really difficult topic to talk about. This project actually came out of a program out of BBH called The Barn. And The Barn is a group of interns, and the one main goal of this group is to make something famous. So what we start with, at least my partner and I started with the team, was walk through New York on your day to work, take the first week, and just write down things that are happening all around you. These are like basically the start of your cultural insights that you're gonna kind of turn into an idea. Things like, I took an Uber from a party and the potholes were killing me. The subway is running terribly late. It's all in the press. The press is talking about the subways. And the gun problem was, in America, was really popping up a lot of times, and it was a scary one to tackle. And I think we were really, personally, I learned a lot through the process. It's a sensitive issue, as we all know in the States, and I thought, let's do something really symbolic. The team, we kind of thought about everyone having a moment to think about what we can do individually, and that was kind of right there on our phones. We all used the gun emoji. People were using it as suicide jokes on Twitter, and we really just want to make sure people took a moment to pause and to think about kind of the tools they were using to communicate about gun control.
Like you were saying, this has become such a hugely political issue. How do you go about navigating that?
It was really difficult. I think I was personally, I was very naive. I thought, all right, America, we're all going to stand against gun control. Everyone's going to come and turn in their guns, and we're going to be Denmark, and there's going to be no violence. That just isn't practical. And we quickly learned about gun sense, which is kind of meeting in the middle, and getting people to kind of make stronger rules for gun control, and then also preventing things like bump stocks and those things that we tragically saw in Las Vegas. So creating a tighter grip. And with that, fighting the NRA, which is a very powerful beast in today's society. So I think we're all very humbled to work on it, but we also learned a lot. It was interesting, the project, we actually didn't start with a partner. So New Yorkers Against Gun Violence came second. So we thought, let's first start with a really great idea and then take it to a partner. So we actually shopped this idea around multiple kind of people fighting for gun control, people against gun control, just to figure out what we can do to twist the language, because as you know, the language is kind of the most sensitive part. We don't want people to give away their guns, which I thought would be the best solution, but you kind of want to be in the middle. So seeing both sides was really, really difficult.
Well, you bravely stepped into a leadership role here, and you worked with interns to bring this to life. What was some of your biggest learnings from that experience?
I think it was just kind of giving them space. And I think a lot of times, especially personally with dealing with interns or creative directing, you're really busy, and the easiest thing to do is actually just, if you're teaching Photoshop or anything, is just to show the commands quickly for somebody. But to actually take the patience to step back and kind of guide somebody or let them kind of figure out the commands on themselves and kind of watch them make mistakes first, even though you know the solution in your head, was really, really beneficial in this case. I think it was incredible. The team, they were facing so much pressure from people online, on YouTube. They were getting hate mail. There were people like on Satan 666 threatening to kill them. I mean, this project really, really got heated, and they really stuck together. At times when they were confused, instead of kind of quickly running to us for guidance, they took a moment and they worked together. So it was really amazing. And I think a really beautiful thing that kind of came out of it for me was to develop the site. We didn't need developers. They just downloaded Squarespace and did it. When we needed a case study video, they downloaded Adobe Premiere and made it themselves. And I think a lot of times, personally, we rely on budgets or vendors or this, and we kind of, the biggest success out of this was actually posting flyers around New York. We had so many people posting flyers, so the kids really got their hands dirty and didn't rely on anyone else to help them. So that was really, really special.
So, getting a little bit less heated, you left agency life, right?
I did.
And you moved on to Spotify because it aligned more with your values. What's your advice to creatives looking to find work that feels better to them, a work life that feels better to them?
Yeah, So about a year and a half ago, I went from working at BBH to Spotify. I think I kind of hit a point in my career path where I wasn't feeling quite inspired on the brands I was working on. We work on Netflix, which is amazing, and then we work on some other clients that didn't quite align with me. I didn't really feel as creative, so I first started, and this would kind of, I think, be a great start for anybody, as I took a moment and wrote down a list of all my favorite brands or companies that I think are doing great things. So I applied to places like MoMA. I reached out and just started learning about how they work in their creative departments. Through that, I found someone at Crispin Porter, so there's a few agency people in the mix, so I kind of found a way to reach out to them. And then my favorite store in New York, Totakayo, they have their little fashion company, so they have their own creative department. So I literally just found little pockets of things that I personally had passion for and reached out. And then I think the second part to that is a lot of these places don't really know how to take in your portfolio. You have ads, essentially, and though you're also a great creative thinker, so how do you kind of position your portfolio that is digestible for a place like MoMA or a fashion company? And I truly pared back almost my entire portfolio. Ironically enough, I put all my side projects first because I felt that really represented my own creativity and design work, and big spots that I did for Vitamin Water, things that I think in the industry would get a lot of attention. I removed it, and I kind of literally started fresh just to show my creative identity to the people that were hiring me and I was talking to.
Awesome. Congratulations on the work.
Thank you.
Congratulations on
Yes.
Spotify, and congratulations for being an
Awesome.
ex-creative leader.
Yeah, thank you.
So next we're going to be talking to Jess Toy, and she did some amazing work as well that we'd like to share with you. Can you play video 2, please?
It's a shame that our fathers and mothers are killed and we can't even see them anymore.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You shot 4 bullets into him, sir. He was just getting his license and registration, sir.
On Martin Luther King Day, the same week of one of the most controversial inaugurations in history, Black Lives Matter needed to reach and empower Black people and their supporters not only on the front lines, but online. Facebook has a tool that allows people to mark themselves safe during life-threatening emergencies. But what if you don't feel safe? We hacked Facebook's safety check, turning the idea on its head, and created a simple and provocative way for Black Americans to let the world know how they feel. Thousands upon thousands of Black Americans marked themselves unsafe, including prominent Black entrepreneurs like Russell Simmons, the co-founder of Def Jam, and celebrities such as hip-hop artist and social activist Talib Kweli. As well as people from all races stood together to support Black people's right to feel safe.
Black Lives Matter is trying to use social media to turn its protests into political force.
While we successfully united Black Americans and supporters everywhere, it's clear that now more than ever, there's still much more to do.
It's really great work, and it's really tough to watch. I think that's one of the powerful things about watching creative work that just makes you feel something, because it's what we're experiencing in the world today. I really want to honor the idea there, though, because when we kind of talked about this earlier, it seems so serendipitous, kind of the way it all came together, from the idea to the support you got from your agency to being able to get in touch with the client. There's a great story there. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, so I guess to start off, me and a few other people got together, and one thing that we always believe in is doing work you're passionate about. And I think, you can get caught up in day-to-day work, So it's really nice when you can find topics, movements, or anything where you can actually put your skills to work. And so after work, we would just get together, start talking about ideas, and like this happened, we started thinking about ideas here like almost 2 years ago. So this is when the BLM movement had gotten quite big. You know, there were a lot of things happening in the US at the time. So it was a really big movement that we couldn't ignore. And because a lot of us were diverse, but even just living in New York City and our values and what we stood for, it was something that kind of made us a little angry, and we obviously just sat around. It was a huge topic that came up, and we just started thinking of ideas for it. And it was kind of serendipitous because we came up with some ideas, you know, ran them by our CCO to see if he was into anything, and he liked a few ideas. And once it got to that point, we're like, okay, well, I guess we have to contact BLM. And one of my friends was hanging with his brother. You know, we're trying to get in contact with them. It's not an easy organization to get in contact with. And his brother was just like, you know what? I know one of the co-founders. So we ended up getting in touch with them. And like, I don't want to say, to me it wasn't easy because we ended up getting in touch with them in a very lucky way, but at the same time, it's a movement that is like really, really diverse and deep, and especially comes to 48 chapters around the country. So it's not like everybody stands for the same thing and want the movement to be run the same way. So it's really learning and kind of trying to figure out what they really stand for, what they want to do. And you know, just because you come up with a creative idea, it may not jive 100% with them. So you always have to work and adjust because in the end you want to keep kind of them and what they stand for at the forefront.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but you mentioned the diversity of the team that you worked with to kind of make this happen. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that shaped the way that you approached this, how that might have shaped the creative?
Yeah, so we didn't obviously plan to be a diverse team, but we're just a bunch of friends who got together, and then just being me, Asian female, a black male, a Hispanic male, and a white male. And I guess not only for this project, but every project that I work on, no matter if you're creative, account, strategy, I think it's really important to have people with diverse views, diverse opinions, because like sitting in a room with a bunch of people, and if someone is just like, oh yeah, I have this great idea, the other person is just agreeing and being like, yeah, that sounds great, let's go with that. You want someone or people to push back. You know, you don't want everyone to have the same opinion. You want people to come from different genders, different races, different backgrounds, anything, because I think people have to really push the work, poke holes in the work, bring different opinions, and I think that's one really good thing about working with a great range of diverse people.
And I think it's, I'd say also, I think it's even more important when you're talking about social causes like this. I think the nuances are so important, and it's important that you have that conversation, that all the people that need to be in the room are there and can weigh in and can kind of share their point of view. And I think that's great that you were able to kind of organically make that happen here. That's awesome. I mean, let's talk about that idea. That's so simple and so, I think it's poignantly simple was one of the quotes from like the New York Times or whatever. But yeah, wow, like even the logo, just the turn upside down and it's the exclamation, you know, wow. It's just, it's a great idea. It's just so simple and so powerful. Why do you think, you know, what is it about social media specifically that kind of makes it such fertile playing ground for these more social causes, you think?
Social, like as much as it is you have a phone in your hand, it's still a very human way to connect with people, friends, family, colleagues, strangers. Whether you're in the same city, in a different country, in the same room, it's still a very human way to connect with people. And it's more relatable. So me like putting out a TV ad or me putting out some banners or anything like that, people can glaze over. But if you create a project that's relatable that people want to share and post, and let's say your friends are sharing something I feel like you're more likely to see it and notice it. And more specifically to BLM was, they still are kind of known, but they were always known as being like a very grassroots, protesters on the ground, people holding signs, and we kind of wanted to reach other people, just because people who are actually on the ground holding signs, they're in it like 100%, they're in it 200%, and it's like a very committed role to have, but we just want to expand it because we know that other people still agree with the movement and believe in the movement, but we had to give them an easier way to express themselves, and I think social was one of the best ways to reach a broader range of people. And we kind of, the idea came up organically, but in the end, why we pushed for it and why we really liked it is because people know what Facebook is, people are sharing on Facebook, people know what a safety check is, so being able to take something on a platform that people go on all the time and voluntarily check like 10 times a day, and being able to do a twist on that to get people's attention and kind of intercept people where they are makes social a really good place to play in.
Awesome. And I want to just, give a shout out to JWT and, the leadership that welcomed the ideas from you and then kind of gave you the support and the resources you need to bring this to live. Because I think it is a daring idea and it's taking a stand, and I think, as an industry, I think some of us would all like to see us taking a stand more, and there's just not as much of that happening because it's, at the end of the day, people worry about business and they worry about offending people, and I think that that's one of the things to me that when I look at the difference between the millennials coming up and what's driving them in our industry and what they can really bring to the table, and then some of what the structure that we currently have, and what we need to look at rejiggering to kind of more welcome, this younger, more entrepreneurial, more vision, more self-driven people in. I really see that as something that we need to figure out. So I wanted to give props to JWT for doing that. And also I wanted to kind of throw this back to you and say, from your standpoint as someone who has clearly, had the support of your agency in working on things that matter to you, what's your advice to other agencies or other companies for supporting, their entrepreneurial creatives, their creatives that have passion projects that matter to them?
Well, I think it's very brave for especially like a global, worldwide agency to take on a client like that. So it's great as a creative to get that support. And it's 2018. I feel like now more than ever, and obviously this is going to keep changing and growing, but we want to be who we are. We want to express who we are. If we believe in something, we don't want to have to hide it. We don't want to have to hide who we are, what we believe in. And I think it's getting more and more important agencies that we have that support. And I do feel like being able to support your employees and keep them passionate is a good thing, because keeping a bunch of like happy, passionate employees and making them feel welcome and standing with them on things they believe will just like create a happier working climate. And I think really bring in a great group of people.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much. That was beautiful work, and congratulations.
Next, we're going to chat with Kate Bainham, who's a copywriter at Goodby Silverstein & Partners, San Francisco. One thing I want to say before we start, though, is that Kate is one of 3 winners from Goodby Silverstein & Partners, San Francisco, which I think is a tip of the hat to Margaret Johnson.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't know who she is, look her up. If we could play video 3, please.
The 6th grader committed suicide last week. Authorities say she suffered nearly a year of cyberbullying.
5 kids have taken their own lives.
I think she snapped because she's just had so much going on.
emoji solution. I mean, that sounds deceptively simple, and I mean, I'm sure it wasn't. But where did this idea come from?
I think similar to the insight of why use social media for a solution like Black Lives Matter, is that's where they are. It's the fastest growing language among teenagers. It's eventually we're all going to be using hieroglyphs. So it's made sense to, rather than give them like talking points or anything like that, it was like, no, just give them one small, simple symbol that we all agree means this one thing. And I think bullying itself is so nebulous. It's like, it's harassment, it's shaming, it's spreading rumors, it's a lot of different things, and those all need different verbal cues. But when there's just one symbol that says, you need to stop, it's easier to understand that.
So your partner, Hannah Whitmark, who's also a Next creative leader, I think she's out here somewhere. Where is she? There she is. Congratulations, Hannah. She called this one of the hardest projects you've worked on as a team. What made it so challenging, and how did you overcome that together?
There's a lot. It's an issue, especially when you hear about children who are killing themselves because of it. You want to kind of boil the ocean and just say, we're not doing this anymore, kids. Listen, and that's it. But it's like, that's obviously not possible because they're not going to listen to us necessarily if we just tell them what to do. So that was difficult because you kind of had to take this almost emotional part out of you and be like, all right, practically, how can we approach this? The next part that was really difficult was just, we had to bring together these companies and have them almost acknowledge the fact that like what they had made was fostering a lot of this, and be like, okay, yes, we do want to help you kind of bring an end to this. And so by having them all come together, it was arduous, but when they did, it was really wonderful because we got where we were. And of course, then the final aspect of it that made it really difficult was that we didn't actually know if it was going to happen. And so we were working on building this huge 360 campaign around a hypothetical. And I don't know if you've been in that position, but it feels like you're going insane because it's like, yeah, this is going to be so great when this maybe comes out and we'll have all of this stuff. And it's like 6 months of work for maybe something. And so it's when we presented the idea to two main factors and then they vanished for months and we didn't hear from them, and then all of a sudden it was like, it's happening. We get an email and it was bizarre. When we were told, it was such like a relief. I think that both of us slept like soundly for the first time in like months because it was just like anxiety like picking at us. But like when that happened, it was amazing.
Yeah, it happened, and it's still happening. I mean, I was scrolling through my phone today and I saw the emoji there. How's it going, and how's the creative changed or evolved? Are there any updates you can share with us?
So one of the things, in addition to continuing to do creative work for this, we've also been doing a lot of research and working alongside childhood psychologists and studying more about bullying because, I mean, my going into this understanding of bullying was that it was like, oh, it's when someone like punches another kid and like it's like a puberty thing. It's like the biggest kid on the playground is the bully and that's it. But it's not the way that it is. And it's like we found all of these stats where, sorry, that was really loud on the microphone. We found all these stats about how like 85% of teens say that they have witnessed or been victim to bullying in some form, but only 15% self-report. And so there's a big lopsided factor there where it's like, well, okay, maybe it's like awareness is a problem that we also need to work on, like kind of self-reflection and like, am I doing things that might be hurting people without like knowing? There's all of these studies from child psychologists about how like their frontal lobe isn't fully developed when they're in middle school. And so you're kind of like going wild animal in your brain when you're going through puberty, which I think we all remember. But it's with that comes kind of these, you don't fully have control over yourself. And then we need to build self-awareness.
thank you for working on cyberbullying for the last 3 years. I mean, what are you hoping to tackle next, and why?
This is a very predictably San Francisco answer. But I worked with a director once, it's Isaiah Surratt, and he, in his free time, does this work where he goes to public schools and teaches them mindfulness and meditation. And there's all of these studies about how when children begin their day in schools just doing like reset breathing and like practicing skills and mindfulness, rates of in school and out of school suspensions and like reports of violence on school property plummet. Like not just like, oh, it's like an incremental change that could be great, maybe it's connected. It's like, it's obvious and stark. And I think that it's, there's a lot of schools in California that are practicing it. But it'd be great to kind of do this like nationwide initiative, just get kids meditating.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Wish you luck with that. And
Thanks.
if anyone wants to hit her up and work with her on it.
Oh, God.
Well, congratulations on being an ex-creative leader.
So awesome work so far, huh? I know, can't believe we have one more piece to show you. So and we're going to be talking with Sakshi Chowdhury. She's a creative supervisor at Ogilvy & Mather in Mumbai. And we'll play for her work for you now. Can you play video 4, please?
तू गंदी अच्छी लगती है तू कली सी कच्ची तू तली सी मच्छी लगती है.
Bollywood music has always been a big influence on India's youth. In the recent past, however, demeaning lyrics have suggested that treating women as objects of desire is a man's right. Love Matters, a global youth program, sought to address this. Presenting Not Music to My Ears, a campaign that put listeners in the same spot as the actress in the song. We placed audio spots in the midst of Bollywood chartbusters on India's most popular music streaming platform. Immediately after one of the songs, this played.
You're at a party. A man walks up and compliments you on your beautiful brown skin. He says it's made him forget his fetish for the fair-skinned girls. How many kisses are you going to run from? He asks. Come, be my Can you imagine a man speaking to you that way? He did, in the song you just heard. Let Bollywood know it's not okay. Tweet with hashtag not music to my ears.
Similar spots disrupted the listening experience. On Twitter, we got India's biggest youth influencers to act like victims. And this is the response they received. That's when they revealed. Soon, Not Music to My Ears had the Bollywood press and the entire country abuzz. Bollywood superstar Farhan Akhtar made a public commitment. And singers, songwriters, cinematographers followed suit, forcing the world's biggest film industry to take a stand.
I love that work, and I also love that I'm guessing that most of you probably haven't seen that. But I know that this is work that was done in India, but it also feels like work that would be appropriate here too. And so I think that's really interesting, and that's a big idea there, and a really cool way of bringing it to life. But based on the story you told me, it started out as a much smaller ask. So I'd love to hear how that idea came about and how you were able to sell it through to clearly a very brave client.
Oh, yes. So in February, early this year,
Love Matters. It's a youth platform for, it addresses issues like gender inequality, sex education. They reached out to us with a very specific brief saying that how do we get the Indian film industry to address this, to address sexist music that they churn out film after film. And every month there are like 3 big movies out there that have this kind of music. And they wanted us to do something on Women's Day, and they said that, listen, we have 0 budgets, so can we just do like an emailer and a social media post? And that's when we started studying the problem, and we realized that it was way bigger than what we'd expected it to be. And therefore, it was a bigger opportunity for us to make an impact. And then we started seeing, okay, what platform would suit this problem the best? And guess what? It was India's #1 music streaming app. And when we pitched the idea to them, to the music streaming app, they were a little apprehensive because they get most of their revenue from this industry. So we were somehow able to convince them, and we thought that it'll be best to serve our message in that listening experience. When the audience is consumed by that music, that's almost like the moment of truth when you drop this. And after this, we felt that we had to amplify it on Twitter, which is why that was almost like a plan B. Okay, this has happened, and let's now think of amplifying it. And we got the youth icons to tweet as if they'd had these experiences of harassment. And that kind of, from there, we kind of lost track. It went really huge. We just had to keep waiting. Yes, there was a phase in the middle where we were like, okay, where is this going? And what's really going to be the impact of this? Because you can't really measure it. But once the celebrities started tweeting about committing to not using this music or using these lyrics, that's when we realized that we'd made a dent. So yeah, that's the backstory, I guess.
So awesome, so cool. I saw that you had some women artists tweeting there, and you had women fans telling their Twitter idols, like, oh, you shouldn't let him treat you like that. There's something really interesting about women standing up for themselves, and when women start to make noise about the way women are being treated, things start to change. And I'm just wondering how you see, you're a female creative in India, and you're tackling issues that affect women. I'm wondering how you see the role of women creatives in playing and making a dent in some of that very built-in behavior that's happening there.
I think we all can make a huge impact, and when I say this, I don't just mean it. I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. We all have different perspectives, especially as women. We live through these experiences that give us these perspectives. So if we can somehow use these perspectives in our everyday work, it'll be great. And I just don't mean it in terms of a gender empowerment or a women empowerment brief, but even if it's your everyday clients, can you shatter stereotypes in a normal commercial? Can you show a woman not at home? Can you show her more than just a homemaker? So all of this, it all comes from your personal experiences, which is why it's really important to have an equal number of women in your team.
Thankfully, we're seeing lately a lot of this kind of gender stereotype shattering work coming out of India. A lot of buzz around that. It's really exciting, some really, really amazing work happening. What do you think is driving that happening right now in India?
So India is a patriarchal country. It's in the last decade or so, it's kind of, we can see like a change where it's on the brink of this gender wave. And when I say that, I mean there are women who are taking up leadership positions, there are women who are becoming the primary owners of their families. And that's a chunk of, when you look at women, just women, it's 80% purchasing decisions are being made by these women. So when you know these are the facts, obviously you'd want to produce work that is not just liked by them, but that'll increase your brand affinity. So brands and clients and agencies that are brave enough to recognize that are doing great work.
Yes, I agree. I hope that we see more brave agencies and more brave clients. And more brave creatives just doing work that they feel driven to do on their own, because quite honestly, one of the great things about being creative people is we literally have all the tools we need to do any of the work we need to do, and we have a community that we can tap. And so I hope that whether or not the work that you see up here inspires you, whether or not you're getting the chance to do that, if those work is coming across your desk, I hope that you're going out and being inspired to make a difference in the world through your creativity. So I think that there's a big, big, big opportunity to do that, and I think the world needs it right now. So I'd like to open it up to questions to any of you guys, if you have questions for these guys. You have
Let's see if I can find it. We got the thing to throw?
It's around here.
You got it?
Oh, it's out there.
Anyone got questions?
Thanks so much. Super inspiring work. So, without naming names, I think that we can agree that sometimes creative work that touches on super sensitive societal matters doesn't land well. So my question is, what was your litmus test ahead of rolling out this work to really make sure you were striking the right chord and that your message would land well and be received well across society?
I think Jess answered it perfectly, because it was a similar experience that I had was finding your partner that are specialists, you finding someone to talk to at Black Lives Matter, us working with New Yorkers Against Gun Violence. I think they're a great place to figure out, are you using the right words? Are you tackling it the right way? At least that's my personal experience. There's people out there that are really knowledgeable. I think you could do that the same with any client. So if you're working on a digital extension, it's the same reason you talk to a vendor that's a digital specialist. So find those specialists in that area. And those could be just specialists on Twitter. Is there someone who speaks on a matter really eloquently or is really involved in a certain nonprofit? You can just hit them up and talk to them about it. I think that's like my litmus test, at least.
Yeah, same with that. But I also think when we were at work, we ran it by a lot of people at work. A lot of us even ran it by friends and people at home. And I remember launch day, we had some copy that had gotten a little aggressive, and we started running it by people. And we were supposed to launch at 9 a.m. We were running it people by 8 a.m. because things had changed, and we got a few comments and actually, changed stuff on the spot right there and then to try to, still keep it broad and relatable.
Any other questions?
It was a similar question, but I've noticed that a trend that I'm seeing is that in the conference period, a lot of people are saying it's known for people to try to reach above, try to talk to your CCO and try to talk to your SVP. But it seems like almost every story that we've heard today, people are reaching across to their friends, people who are in their similar network and similar understanding. How could you again stress the importance of kind of using the network that you already have and not feeling that because you don't have access to Black Lives Matter as of yet, or you don't have access to New York Against Gun Violence, that shouldn't be what hinders you from pursuing your passion? Because I feel like often we struggle with not knowing who that resource is and then just giving up on the idea completely.
Yeah, and I think that's really important in our industry. The longer you spend time in our industry, ideas can die for any reason, and you always have to just keep pushing. Even though you hit a roadblock, you can't just stop there. You're like, okay, I'm going to contact this person, I'm going to contact this person. And even right now, we're working on a new idea for BLM, and we've hit a million roadblocks. Time is running out very quickly, but we haven't stopped. And every day, we're finding time, even outside of our regular work schedule, to be constantly calling people, talking to people. Even someone overhearing an issue that you've run into, we've had people actually come in and be like, oh, hey, I could actually help with that. And it's always good to be vocal, because if you keep it all in and never bring up any issues that are coming up or look for someone for help or advice, then you're probably just going to stay where you are.
Yeah, especially if you maintain that passion that you've had, even when it gets really difficult, that it attracts people to you to want to help you, which I think is really valuable.
Yeah, we also tend to overthink a lot before asking for help, so we shouldn't. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to ask for help.
And it's okay to do stuff on your own. I think I've had this personally with some of my side projects. We want to do 3D printable cameras when people were first starting to spy on you through your webcams. It's like I personally didn't feel like I had the support of my agency at that time, so the three of us did it as a side project. And we had great success at that. And the power of the agency, we didn't really need it. What we did is we made lists of PR contacts. Like, all right, this person at Hypebeast has written about this before. Let's just email them directly. And people really appreciate that. And I think to that point of not getting a partner, if you guys were doing a side project, and I think don't sell yourself short, like shoot big, reach out to those people. You can find their emails on their websites. And if you don't feel like you have the support, just get it done on your own.
Yeah, I'd say that came through a lot. I think that a lot of the work that we saw, in addition to the work that they had done for our entries had done for their agencies, there was a lot of work that was personal projects. Sakshi actually is working on more work that has to do with fighting the patriarchy in India. Can I say a little bit about that?
Okay, so last year I was reading a report on gender equality in India, and I realized India ranked 132 out of 148 countries on the Gender Inequality Index. And I wasn't too comfortable with it. I had like 2 sleepless nights. I was like, I have to do something. And that's when I started studying the subject in detail. And I realized that while cities were opening up to this conversation on feminism, the narrative spoke to very specific audiences. There wasn't, I mean, in India, if you go, I don't know how many of you have been to India, but India is as diverse as diversity can be. And there are like billions of languages and geographies. So I realized that there was something simple needed to initiate this conversation, and I thought it was going to be art. So I launched the Seesaw Project, it's called the Seesaw Project, last year with 2 men who were going to be instrumental in leading this conversation against patriarchy. And we've done 3 series till date on how toxic casual sexism is, on how patriarchy affects men. We've just recently done a series on, gender-free curses, like gender-free cuss words. And but we've just touched the surface, honestly. Like there's so much more to do. We're planning to do a film on marital rape. So we're exploring different forms of art. It's not just graphic design. We're looking at film, we're looking at photography, we're also looking at painting. There's a lot that you can do on the side if you're passionate about it.
And a lot of times if an idea starts getting, this happened to us also, if your idea starts getting success, all of a sudden everyone in the agency's ears perk up and they want to jump on it as well. So you really have nothing to lose if you just kind of do it after hours and on the weekends.
I think last year we had, one of our next creative leaders had a piece of work that was the Stand Up to Stand Down. And she had actually done it in her own time. They had raised money, she and some of her fellow creatives. And after it launched, her agency was like, why didn't you come to us? We would have supported you. And, I think that it's always worth asking, but you have all the resources you need within yourself and within your community.
I don't know if it's on. Yeah. Hi, guys. Thank you for sharing. It's really inspiring to kind of see not only did you do effective creative, but there's a passion in all of it. And I'm just curious, only because I know we're at 3% conference, if at all, if any, did you guys have any challenges coming from a female perspective? Did you have any roadblocks along the way? Did you feel as if, or was it a positive thing that you were coming from a female standpoint? And did you have any male supporters in the journey to the great creative that you guys produced?
I know for me personally, for that particular project, everybody was supportive, worked as a team. It was one of those things where people always gave credit where credit was due. Nobody really tried to stomp on each other. And I would say I have a pretty positive experience on that project, definitely.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
Mine was actually like a largely female team. My partner, Hannah, who left, great. Thanks, Hannah. My partner, all of the account team, a majority of our clients at the Ad Council were all female. Our strategy, everything was all female, so it was kind of like bizarre in that it was nice. It was like, it felt like we were on the other side. It was a bizarro world on our project, which was great, so.
Yeah, I think for me also the piece of work, I mean, the way it shaped was because there were so many women on the team and because we were collaborating. We were like sleeping in office, like barely, but yeah, we were all together for, I don't know how long, for almost a month. So then you establish that right at the outset, saying that this is how I'd want this project to be and I'd want everyone's equal support on it. Yeah.
I never really thought about it. I was talking to Laurel about this until recently, but like career long, I've always kind of kept my head down. I'm also like quite a tomboy, so I always kind of fit in with the boys and never really kind of lifted my head up and saw kind of what was going around me. On my creative projects in general, I can't say I have anyone from like female side of things that really like stuck out to me that pushed the work. That's one thing I'm really excited about Spotify. It's the first time I'm really having like someone in a leadership position that's a female leader, female creatives all around me, not just kind of filling the void, which is really, really inspiring. So if you find somebody that is a female creative or someone that inspires you, just get really close with them and kind of use them as allies.
There's plenty of them here.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time.
Yeah. Thanks for staying, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.